it puts that weight on him. If you want somebody to win outside of Korea, this is your guy. And we are loaded in. So I'll just say, in the bottom left, we have the red Terran player representing Team Liquid. He is Clem.
And in the top right, it is Milkicow for CSO Esports. Oh, that music. Oh.
You getting amped up?
I am amped as hell, man. I'm ready to like run for a couple 100 meters and then get gassed because I'm out of shape.
I was about to say, I'm ready to swim for a couple 100 meters, then realize I'm never getting off this island.
Oh no.
I'm gonna be stuck on that all day now. We'll see if we can find more ways to make it cursed for everybody watching.
Speaking of curses, I was looking at the Twitch chat and it had the Cle and the Mill, and I just couldn't help but think Clemil.
Like Clemil? Like instead of Emil out, it's Clemil?
Exactly. You're picking up what I'm putting down. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that. It's Terran versus Terran. So typically, I mean, if you haven't, I feel like it hasn't really evolved past where it's been for a while. You have double gas openers are still going to be the most popular strategies. People don't want to get hit by those early Reapers and Hellions, so you kind of have to match it most of the time. But there's like 20 different ways that you can go past that once the factory is out. So I'm curious whether or not we're going to have like that 2 tank or the quick tank drop, or if it's going to be that quick tank Viking push, or maybe something conservative, just like a Cyclone opener into taking the expansion and moving things forward. But I feel like if you're Clem, if you're confident in TVT, you're always going to have an opportunity to do a lot of damage early on if you think you can. So those types of choices, that's what I want to see here from Clem. Are we going to have that early drop? Are we going to have something like an early attack, or will both players kind of do that no rush 10 gentleman's handshake? All right, let's just macro up for a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing to take note of. And oh, this is going to be a proxy starport here. Okay, well, it's right out of the gate. We've got some big aggression coming in from Milkicow, and it's going to be a proxy Hellion drop, playing it like it is a TVP. That is kind of wild. Whereas we got Clem, who went for one of the relatively newer quote-unquote innovations in the matchup, which is that quick reactor after the Reaper. He's going to be going for either 3 Reapers, 2 Hellions, or 5 Reapers, 3 Hellions. Regardless, though, he's going to need to figure out what's happening here, or he could take some huge damage.
Yeah, and there's still a couple of different ways that people like to play these out, because you could just proxy the Liberator, you could proxy a Medevac and just use it to lift the Hellions in, and it is going to be that Medevac. So that's the harder part too. Even if Clem knew that he wasn't building his starport in his main base, which is not something that you can just guess since he hasn't seen anything inside of Milkicow's base. It does get a little awkward though, because if Milkicow moves the Hellions out to go into the aforementioned Medevac, and these units just run by into his natural, see right here, this gets really awkward because it is a little dance, it is a little trade, but the Medevac can't do anything without units to put inside of it. So if Clem were to test that natural again, and it is fortunate for Milkicow that he's headed home, but that's right there, one of those very kind of risky-ish moments, but it looks like Milkicow's going to get away with it for the time being.
Yeah, that was very fortuitous right there for Milkicow, because like you said, if it had moved out at a weirder time, he might have gotten caught. He could have also just missed the army completely. Instead, he is going to be able to get into the main base. Ooh, the Hellions are going to get some lineup shots. Not anywhere near as bad as it could be, and he gets the Medevac. Oh, the lock-on from the Cyclone. That is pretty massive. 7 SCVs is good, but is it enough to justify that loss? I would argue no.
There's 2 things about it. You've invested gas early on that hasn't really generated a huge return, and it did get up to 7 SCVs killed at the end. But killing workers in TVT, this is like the least significant matchup in all of StarCraft for killing workers. Everything you know about, oh, I killed 7 workers at the start, I'm like way ahead. In TVT, that's not usually the case, because what's going to decide it is those power units. And as long as you have enough SCVs to mine enough minerals to slowly move forward, but get your gas for the tech, you can still get your tanks, you can still get your Ravens, and you can still, with mules, come back, get that 3rd command center up. So it doesn't turn into as much unless you're getting somewhere in the realm of like 10 plus workers early. And even then, we still see Terrans come back from that all the time. So the starport gets found. He did build a Raven And I like that choice only because while he can't attack with it, Ravens are just really good in general. You should always build them in TVT, and he's going to be, at worst, he'll be able to just send it home and keep it for a follow-up, which I have absolutely zero problems with.
Yeah, and we got something really interesting coming in from Clem on the response. He built 2 medevacs here. He is going to load up for a big drop, as we can see right there. 2 tanks, Ooh. 7 Marines, and a Raven going to be coming on in. The Raven will drop an auto turret in the main, gets another couple of SVs. Clem is in a tough spot economically, but he is really looking to put some pressure on, and now he sees that his opponent's army is out on the map. Oh, can he get this starport? No, he's going to go for the tank lock-on. A little bit of damage there, but some good micro from Milkicow will keep that alive. However, here comes the push from Clem. I think I would have preferred this behind the main mineral line, but this is actually going to camp all of the production. Milkicow now has to go. He has to go right this moment.
Yeah, I think that's the key. What you just said there, getting onto the production. That's the Achilles heel of Terran. You can't build anything except for right outside of it. So he's got tanks on his factory, his starport back home that he was trying to rebuild did not finish, and Clem just kind of brings the hammer down on him in game 1. That Hellion drop play is cute, but it doesn't have a good answer to the Cyclone. And while we talk about, oh hey, the Reapers and Hellions could have run in when those Hellions left, sure, it's great that he went home. But at the same time, those are the units that are also going to defend that attack. And Terran versus Terran, you can still build tanks. You can lose half your SCVs, and if you have a factory with a tech lab, you can still build 1 tank at a time and not get blocked on that. It's not like Zerg or something where you lose half your workers and you need to choose, am I going to build units to counterattack or am I going to build drones? No, you just keep building the tanks and medevacs, because as long as you're mining gas, the game goes on.
Yeah. It was definitely a situation where I looked at the worker count afterwards and I was like, okay, Clem's worker count is pretty low. When the damage hits that quickly, it's definitely an uncomfortable situation, but it was still a situation where he was like, okay, I know your starport's on the other side of the map. I feel like I can get something done with a counterattack, and it was a great decision. And the fact that Milkicow moved out made it an even better decision. Like, it could not have gone any better for Clem in that little sequence.
Yeah. If he had sent the Raven home, I might have felt a little bit better about it. Personally, I don't think that aggressive Ravens in TVT really makes sense, because at max, against a good player, you'll get 1 or 2, which is never worth the 50 energy. Because imagine the Raven went home and he's close to having enough to drop 2 turrets, and then he's got a few more units back there. Then you almost see a world where he can deal with those 2 tanks and pull the SCVs and try to make something of that game, since he did have the worker lead to bleed some out. But either way, we've got an SCV going across the map early, so I'll just get into it. Clem in the top right, Red Terran from Team Liquid.
And his opponent spawning down on the bottom left for CSO Esports, it's Milkicow. No second SCV. This has got to be Proxy Marauder, right? It's so far away.
It could be either. It's if you go for the single proxy Reaper, you're kind of getting in your opponent's head. At this level, everybody knows that when your Reaper finishes, right, you're like, okay, it would take, what is it, somewhere around like 20 seconds to get to the other side of the map, because the Reaper is really fast. But if your Reaper finishes and then your opponent's Reaper immediately arrives at your base, it should be immediately obvious to you that you have been proxied, because there's no way your opponent can get the Reaper across the map if you open with one immediately. So that can get something in his head where he might think, oh, is it multiple Reapers? But it is going to be that tech lab. So good call there, Steadfast. I think that you have a couple of good options there as well. But sometimes I'm kind of surprised we don't have the second SCV still, because 2 racks Proxy Marauder is a little bit harder to deal with. 1 at a time, I don't know that it gets it done, but we'll just see how Clem reacts as he sees the factory on top of the ramp, which should also be another tell that something funky is happening.
Yeah, not seeing the barracks there is going to be really weird. There's a super outside shot. It could be a hidden barracks inside of the main base, but that'd be very unlikely. That'd be the weirdest thing ever. Now, the thing about this location for Milkicow, like where the barracks is, he's not going to be able to lift it up and fly it to that natural expansion. It's going to take so long to get there. Like, I know they have the Ignite afterburners on those buildings, but it takes a while when it's this far away.
There's a couple of interesting things about the way that these builds play out. So I thought he might do a single proxy Reaper, because he would build a factory next to it and just kind of proxy all of his infrastructure for a big 1 base siege. But the Proxy Marauder in this case, because of where the bunker is, like he could end up floating that barracks over for vision, but then he doesn't have any more production outside of that factory back home. So you have to make this hard choice where you don't have vision up the ramp without getting poked by the Reapers. And instead he's gonna put a bunker on the low ground. And I don't know that I like that either, because if Clem feels like he can just run his Reapers across the map into Milkicow's base when Milkicow is rallying Hellions across the map, I think that just gets even more awkward. And this micro with the Reapers is just filthy. Kills one of the Marauders. The other one is very low. So yeah, he could put it in a bunker, but I mean, he's got a tech labbed factory. So I think if you're Clem, you just build a tank and move on. This game will not be won early by Milkicow. He is getting a medevac and more Hellions at home. But the thing is, Clem already has all of his units in his main. He's not really a lot of motivation for him to leave, so he should be able to deal with this too. Well, let's see.
Yeah, this is, I thought for sure that Clem was going to be able to snipe the SCV. There were some really great micro to start things off. And then he didn't actually kill the SCV, so the bunker does get up here. But like you said, there is that tank, so he's going to be able to break this regardless. Command center right now for Clem is so much faster, so Milkicow really does need to get something done. Even though, of course, this, you know, the intention of this was to hold his opponent. So now he's in a kind of an uncomfortable situation. We're going to see, an elevator play. This supply depot will see it quite quickly, and that's pretty great for Clem. Does he have what he needs to deal with this, though? The tank is actually not going to be as good against this as you might like. Oh, wow. What is he? He's kind of hemming and hawing about where to go with his units.
Yeah, the awkward thing is the Hellions want to run in. The Marauders would like to just go straight for the tank or the Cyclone. It just doesn't have the numbers. If you went for a single proxy Marauder, so you don't have the option to get a whole lot out. So 3 SCVs die. He kills a depot, but Clem actually already had an extra little backup depot, so he didn't get supply blocked off of that, which I think can be really devastating. Dealing with these types of early attacks, it's so easy to get flustered and be like, okay, get the tank out. Start a command center, and then, oh wait, I didn't build any depots, and then your factory gets stuck, you can't get that tank, things get awkward. But Clem, he doesn't make those mistakes. The Hellions will come back and be annoying, but I would say it's very likely that we'll have Clem prepare to do another similar type of attack to that first game and kind of clap back in a few moments, as his Reaper is already kind of evened out that damage. He's ahead on workers again with just those 2 that he was able to kill. And his second orbital being done so much faster means he can build 2 at a time, significantly ahead of his opponent.
Yeah, Milkicow doing a nice, making a nice decision of getting the very fast third command center to try and make up for that disadvantage that he finds himself in. But it does mean he's going to be down in army supply pretty significantly. And the lock on that medevac will take it down. He drops the auto turret to protect the Cyclones. And now Clem, he's just about doubling his opponent's army supply. Where is the tank right here for Milkicow? That needs to do some really heavy lifting to try and hold a push like this. But okay, actually, never mind. Clem's just going to back away. He says, nah, it's fine. I'm chilling. And he's building a Banshee. What do you make of this?
It feels like an interesting kind of move where he's going to try and bait the Cyclone and the Raven maybe back into the main base. He's going to fly over this tech lab, so Milkicow will know. I don't know if you got full sight of that. That add-on doesn't have as much vision as a unit when it's just by itself. So I don't think he can see it, even though the Banshee can see it the other way. But yeah, I thought it might have just been like a bait play, because the rest of the army is still going to move out. And ideally, you use the interference matrix on the siege tanks. Kudos to Milkicow for where these tanks are, by the way, because it almost acts as a line of sight blocker around the edge for the inside tank. It can be a little bit awkward to try and see that if you don't have an air unit close by, if he tries to force it. But I don't know about this. He's moving both of his Ravens, so he's going to dump all of his energy into auto turrets, and maybe he's going to kill some STVs, but this does not help defend the big attack back home. And this is kind of what I talk about. That Raven energy is so valuable for dealing with these types of plays. He'll delay the barracks, he'll kill a bunch of STVs, but it's not really enough to deter the tech that he's building. It's not enough to really slow down where he's at, and that energy, he may be missing it back home if he ends up getting pushed in here.
Yeah, and we've already got a nice usage of the interference matrix here from Clem. Ooh, I like what he's trying to do. He's using this Banshee as kind of like the poor man's liberator. Oh, but it will get locked onto by the Cyclone. Nice job. But now Clem, he's going to be able to move forward. Nice quick unsiege from Milkicow. Oh no, the rally on those Ravens. brutal. And that's a dead Raven and all the energy on the other one gone. Milkicow will be able to hold this for the moment, and he's actually up 15 SCVs. This is, the Vikings popping out is really what he needed right there. This is a weird situation where I normally am so, I'm right on the same page with you about that Raven energy, but with a defense that it seems like he's going to be able to hold at least for the moment, it actually seems as though it's been okay to have used up that energy.
Yeah, it's still kind of an interesting spot to be in. I think the best thing for Milkicow right now is that he has a lot of Vikings, and Clem does not really have that air pressure capability. But Clem's advantage at the moment is that he has his third base landed in mining. So even with that worker count advantage, Clem is catching up, but he has his workers mining on the third. You have 30 SCVs mining minerals on Milkicow's natural. So almost half of those are mining at less than 100% efficiency, and that makes it tough. This breakout is really, really well done. He cleans up all the tanks that Clem has. I wonder here if Clem overstayed a little bit because his Viking count has increased, but losing the tanks is always going to be hard. He only has one factory, so that puts us at 1-4. Now Milkicow will move out and get his next base, but unless Clem can get a big play with Marines, I don't know. This is going to be a little bit tough. It boils down a lot to the air control. So Milkicow did stop building his Vikings, or he lost a few in that fight. So it would be hard for him to take that big push and siege him up. But I think it would be a smart move for him to try and knock Clem off this third if he can.
Yeah, it certainly would. This is a pretty massive advantage right now for Milkicow. Particularly the 1-1 timing is going to be difficult to deal with. We do have a great spotter Marine as well as that sensor tower finishing up. That's going to make Milkicow sneaking in on this third base from the right side. That's going to make that pretty much impossible. Still, it's 5 tanks to 2. The Raven count is even. The Viking count, like you said, does favor Clem because Milkicow kind of took his foot off the gas on that. But I don't know. I still think I like Milkicow's position a lot. He did forget his combat shields for a little while, and his 2-2 wasn't quite as quick as it could be, but I still favor Milkicow's position just a little bit here.
Yeah, the things that stand out are the 2-2 that he's getting quite a bit earlier. That's definitely very nice for him to have. I think that in a scenario where both players can just go onto the muscle memory side of things and focus on the macro, that's where it can get a little bit more even. But the expectation for the fights is that Clem is probably going to have that little bit of better control or go for multi-prong. So that's something to keep our eyes on as we progress into this one. Clem is also only just now starting his stim as he starts +2. So whether that was a mistake or something that he forgot, he did get combat shield first, but that's kind of awkward. If you're Milkicow, weirdly enough, because Milkicow didn't have combat shield, stimmed Marines without it lose to unstimmed Marines with it. So it's a wash. You know, you're just chilling. We probably won't have those big plays until that 2-2 gets a little bit closer. If Milkicow with his combat shield knew there was no stim on the other side, maybe he'd try something crazy. But there's so many Vikings. The sensor tower is set up. He has a depot on the right edge of the map, so it would be very difficult to try and force like a Doom drop, for example. You have to just play this one out and turn it into that war of attrition.
Yeah, you certainly do. And when that happens, the little advantages in the mid game, they are very difficult to translate into a win without just outplaying your opponent. Now, I do like what Milkicow is doing here. He's starting up his double starport. He knows that, yeah, when it gets to the late game, when you get up to your 4 bases, your 5 bases, Ravens are king. And he's not going to be shy about going for those. There are some players, especially the Korean players these days, Byun comes to mind as he's like, no, I'm just going to try and end the game with Marine tank. I'll go up to 8 barracks, 16 Marines at a time, 2 tanks at a time. I'll maybe transition into Ravens eventually, but I'm going to try and bust you down with the basic units. But Milkicow is saying, nuh-uh, I'm good. And Clemmy's going to fall asleep a little bit later, but Milkicow will have the small advantage in the timing there.
Yeah, for all intents and purposes, this game is pretty even. The small advantage of when he had his 2-2 is nice, but I don't think that there's an opportunity to force that into his favor. The little drop maneuvers are definitely a good play, but this is like that TVT that has aged to the point where now it is going to be that either one of them is going to get somewhat caught off guard in the middle of the map, and not be sieged up, and we'll get a big concave and things we're like, oh wow, that ended fast. Or it's the tank Viking wars. You know, we draw the line in the sand, we start adding more planetaries, we get more of those turrets. You already pointed it out, Steadfast. We got a bunch of starports that were added. On a long enough time frame, all TVTs become tank Viking, unless somebody has the courage, nay, the bravery, the guts to go for the battle cruisers. I don't know that we're gonna get to see that in this match. I would. My little heart, however, would beat twice as fast if it did.
Go quite a flutter at that. It would be a beautiful sight to see, but we don't have TY in this one, unfortunately, so the chances are quite low. Clem's Marines are they got a nice little skirmish on that left side there. They will get forced back, but he's gonna now move through the middle of the map. This is a lot of tanks in this location. Okay, there we go. Milkicow does get the scan down. Ooh, and a great tank spot on this base, but the Ravens interference matrices will force these back. And with an anti-armor missile on the Vikings, is this going to be enough for Milkicow to kind of stall this push out? Clem is getting a lot done. There is an attack on the top left, but this main attack, I think it has potential to just knock out this fourth base.
And this is the toughest part. The tanks get close enough to the planetary. I don't think he had vision on that one. So the fact that Milkicow is actually able to peel some of those tanks on the edge off is really nice. But that planetary is kind of doomed. And just doing Marines to take it off, once the 3-3 is done, I would expect 100%. Planetary range and building armor are both huge. Makes it so much harder for Marines to gun that down, especially when you're trying to YOLO it on that last third of HP. Milkicow can repair this forever, but it's not cheap. He's sinking a lot of resources into keeping this base up. At the same time, it holds Clem's army here because he's not going to go anywhere else while he's trying to deal with this. But this is a rather large gas sink. So as long as Clem keeps that northwest corner base, the turret kills the full health medevac, or the fully loaded medevac rather. This is still very awkward. Here's where you can see Clem's kind of tactical expertise come into play. There's the interference matrix on the backside. Dorito cannon weakening up some of the front line for Milkicow. He tries to break the siege, and it looks like so far he has managed to with those interference matrices. But as they come to expiration, at least most of the tanks are gone. He's going to have to reposition them to siege up on the planetary again.
That was a very nicely executed break from Milkicow, but now I look at the supplies and I'm like, wait a minute, what? How is Clem so far up in supply? And it is important to note that some of that is SCVs. During all of this, he actually kills the 5th base towards the tail end. We've got something also that really interesting coming in from Clem. He built 3 Hellbats right here, and that's got to be a bit of a misstep. Oh man, this break attempt from Milky is going to pay a lot bigger dividends. He's going to drop a couple of those interference matrices, and now he will wipe the rest of that army out from Clem. Clem, that is something you don't see every day. Hellbats leading the charge on a Marine tank army in TVT.
Yeah, the way that this kind of flowed was a really good defense early on by Milkicow. He pushed the siege back. He was able to clean up all of the tanks, but he wasn't able to turn that into an aggressive opportunity. He saw that sensor tower and he's like, okay, I can't attack into this. I don't have enough Vikings to get the air siege. So now he's fighting to secure bases that Clem has had for a rather significant amount of time already. He's moving everything up to get this left side base, but the equal and opposite position on the other side, Clem's had that base with a sensor tower on it forever, and he's got the corner base. He has a pretty healthy amount of resources available to him. I will say Clem was a bit late on his +3 upgrades, so a straight up head-to-head Marine fight would be difficult to do, especially if he gets hit with that armor shredding missile. But that's what the tanks are for, and that's kind of why, you know, when it comes to TVT, regardless of your upgrades, your tanks are 2-shot in the Marines. If you get to that +3, then things get real ugly real fast once they stem. But maintain the air control, use the interference matrix, keep those tanks in positions where they can zone away and force your opponent to have to trade, unfavorably into you to secure their own expansions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we are going to see a little maneuver getting blocked there. Good scan from Clem, checks and sees what's up. Oh, I think we just saw a nice target fire on one of the Ravens, maybe, with those small number of Marines. Missile turret will get taken out, not going to be able to get the kill there, and Clem now finds position on this 5th base, and he's going to move through the middle with a lot of Marines as well. The interference matrices will come in from both sides. in big numbers, but the auto turns from Clem are going to be adding on a fair bit of DPS, and that's going to help him win the Viking fight. Meanwhile, yeah, we see those Marines in the natural. They are going to be the